What is up, everyone, and welcome to another Bitcoin market update. In these videos, you will learn how you can use technical analysis to forecast price movements in your favorite cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and others, and also see how you can use technical analysis to accurately and precisely make entries and exits on your favorite cryptocurrency investments. So, let's start off here with Bitcoin on the monthly time frame. Before we do, though, I just want to quickly remind you that everything on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. All right, starting off with the monthly time frame, we have a lot to talk about today, and pretty much everything is massively bullish. So a lot has changed since we last spoke, and I will talk about those changes in today's video, as well as some of the newer developments on things that I'm seeing on the chart. So the first thing I want to talk about is this monthly bull trend that we're seeing on Bitcoin. So when you're looking for a bull trend as an investor and you're looking to buy something and hold it for an extended period of time, like several months or years in this trend that we see on Bitcoin, you want to look for a bull trend, which is going to give you an indication that there's going to be some continued momentum upwards in price. So when we're looking at this, there's four key elements that you're going to be looking for to establish and confirm a bull trend. And that is a low, high, higher low, and then higher high. So that's what we see right here. So let's break down this trend right here. So the first element is a low. So when we're looking for a low, what we're looking for is a drawdown in price followed by a break of a candle's high, which is what we see right here in March. We have our high at 91.88, and then here in April we go up and we break that candle's high. So that's indicating to us that we have a drawdown and then a bounce, making this our low. Then we need to see a high being formed. So we see the price appreciate here for several months, and then in the month of August here we have this upper wick, and then in the month of September we break the month of August's low, which then makes this a high. So if we're looking for a high to be set, we need the candle's low to be broken, and that is what we see right here. We break the low, that makes this a high, and now we have two parts of that four element pattern. So we have our low, our high, and now we need to see a higher low. Now, a higher low is just a drawdown in price that does not exceed the previous low that we had. So here our low is at 37.82, and when we come down here, our low is at 98.25, which is higher than this low. That's where that name higher low comes from. It's very straightforward. So when you have this drawdown, what this is indicating to you from a supply and demand perspective is the demand to buy the asset is increasing at higher prices. This is indicating bullishness to you. And the way you know that is because the price drew down, very similar to how it did here. People were selling more than they were buying. Here people were selling more than they were buying, but there wasn't as many sellers in this drawdown as there was in this one, which is indicating to you that there's more buyers at higher prices and they're willing to invest or trade this asset in hopes that it will go higher. So that's the third element you need, is our higher low. So we have our low, high, higher low, and then you need the confirmation element, which is the fourth one, which is a higher high. So we have a high that we set down here in August, and then we need that confirmation of the bulls actually breaking the previous high here in August, and we see that with this parabolic rise in price, and then our higher high being set here in April for our new all-time high. And very similar to August, the way we know a high has been set here is we broke this low of our April candle at 46.930 in the month of May, making this our high. So for continuation of a bull trend, you're going to need to see higher lows and higher highs. And we see a higher low right here, and now we're coming up in price. So now it's going to be interesting to see, will the bulls be able to, on the first stab up in price here, make a higher high and continue this trend in Q4 here of 2021, or will they need to form what I've been looking for, which is an equilibrium pattern that breaks to the bull side? So what that is, this pattern is really, the reason why it's called an equilibrium pattern is because there's basically equal push from both the bulls and the bears that's causing the price to contract, forming higher lows and lower highs until eventually you either get a breakout to the upside with a higher high, or a breakout to the downside with a lower low. And either one of those, either a higher high or a lower low, is going to indicate to you that you're likely to see continuation in that direction in the coming periods on whatever time frame that pattern is developing on. So in case of the monthly time frame for Bitcoin, if we see this pattern play out with a lower high here, something like this, where we form a lower high, we come down, we form a higher low, lower high, higher low, and then we break out for a higher high, it's likely we'll see several months of continued upside thereafter and some expansion to the upside. If we see a break to the downside with a break of a lower low, that is when we are going to see continued downside in the coming months. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Bitcoin's price action develops on this monthly time frame in the coming months. One of the things I wanted to mention on the monthly time frame was this candle right here that I've been talking about in September that could have likely been our high, our lower high that I've been expecting to form because of the magnitude of this drawdown, got invalidated with this monthly candle here in October, actually over the past few days. And the way that we know it got invalidated is we broke the high of that candle. So we came up, it looked like we were going to come down here and form a lower high and draw down, but instead we pushed even higher and we invalidated this. As soon as this monthly candle opened in October, we saw pretty much all bulls since that point, and we've seen a lot of upside. So very good news for the bulls there. I'm just going to delete this stuff so we can go to the 3-month and not be distracted with a bunch of words and lines. So if we go to the 3-month, we can see that our potential high that I thought was going to be set here in April did not get set. We did not break the low of this candle here in April or this low here in July. We just saw an inside bar here in July, and now we've broken that to the upside, which is just telling us that the last low that we had was in January, and since that point, we've just been, going higher since that point. We haven't broken the low of any candle for any of these months. We got close here and here, but we didn't actually break those. All of these were above the previous 3-month candle's low. And now we're continuing this again. So we'll see how much higher we can go before we end up forming a high on the 3-month time frame and then seeing a drawdown on this higher time frame. But good news for the bulls there, because if we would have drawn down here on the 3-month time frame, we would have seen, after this monthly candle open here in October, that would have been a pretty significant drawdown from that point to make to break that low. It would have been about a 34% decline. So we invalidated that, and we are on our way to the promised land, folks. So from a weekly perspective, we have not only set a higher low here, which is good for the bulls, but we've now made a higher high. So now on the weekly time frame, we have indeed confirmed, if we get 2 weekly candle closes above this high, we'll have indeed confirmed a weekly bull trend here on Bitcoin, and we'll likely see higher prices. From a technical indicator standpoint, we already are in a bull trend on things like the Super Guppy, which is a collection of EMAs. And if you don't know how to use this indicator, check out our tutorial video where we break that down in a short 5-minute tutorial for you guys on how you can use that to make entries on your favorite crypto assets. But this indicator, like I said, is just a collection of EMAs. The green ones here are going to be the longer-term investor EMAs, and the light blue are the shorter-term trader EMAs. So you can see that when we came down here, investors were buying into Bitcoin here, and we see that the candle close here on September 20th was right in line with the top of that investor EMA there, and we've seen significant upside with this continuation of this trend. In addition, another trend following indicator here, the Ichimoku cloud, is still in the most bullish position that it can be in ever since we started that back here in November of 2020. We have our Tenkin above the Kijun, both of those above the cloud, and price above all of that, and the cloud being green. So this is, both of those indicators, very good signs that we'll continue this rise to the upside, and I'm very interested to see how this develops in quarter 4, which historically for the crypto markets has been very bullish. So if we look at this from a VPVR indicator standpoint, this is an indicator that gives you horizontal volume levels, and the farther they are out, the more volume there is at that level, meaning the more buying or selling volume will be needed to push through one of those nodes. So in this case, we can see that the highest resistance above us starts at right about where our wick was, which is at about 55.7, and that goes up to about 57.6. So this kind of area right here is where we're going to be looking for potential resistance. But if we break above that, you can see that obviously above the all-time high, there's nothing. And after that point, there's, it drops off pretty precipitously. So that looks good for bullish continuation as well, folks. 3-day time frame, if we're looking at this, we had a very bullish 3-day candle close on the last 3-day candle here. Very long body, very short upper wick, very good news for the bulls. Potentially forming this, turning this gray zone into a support zone if we get one more 3-day candle close above that, which at this point, considering the candle close that we had here on October 4th, very likely we will get in the coming days. So that's good news from a support perspective, and that level is from back here on August 29th and goes from about 49.6 down to about 46.6. And the reason we know that is a support zone for price is because of that bull trend. So we have a low right here, a high, higher low, and then higher high. And when we see that higher high, what I look for is 2 candle closes on the same time frame where I'm looking for the trend to develop on to close above the previous high. So the initial high, which was right here on August 29th, we came up right here, we formed a high. This is where we need to break, close 2 candles above, and that's what we see here and here. And then once we do that, we can use our rectangle tool here on TradingView. If we go over here to the left, you can click on this where the brush is, go down to the rectangle, and then you can snap that on using the magnet tool, and it'll snap it right to the edges of that candlestick, and that will be your support or resistance zone. In this case, support. So, but sometimes what can happen with support or resistance levels is you can see the price completely reject that level immediately. So we see the candle close above, we validate that as a level, and then we close right below that without even bouncing off of it. Once we do that and we close 2 candlesticks below that level, now it is turned into resistance. That's what we see here. We reject off, we get this big massive down candle, and then we go right through this on the second test. So now if we come back and return to this level, this is a potential buying opportunity in my opinion. From a 2-day perspective, only one thing I wanted to highlight here, which is a previous resistance zone that in a previous video I actually talked about the short opportunity right here, which was a very profitable opportunity if you were to take it off of this level right here where we had another bull trend and then we had a drawdown through it. Once we came back into it right here on April 27th, you see we have a drawdown, then we come into it again, drawdown, third time drawdown. So if we come into this a fourth time, it's really weak at this point as a resistance level, and if we end up breaking above it at some point in the near future and closing 2 candlesticks above this, once we retest this, here's our entry point. We can put our stop loss below that level, and then we ride this baby to the moon. That is what the 2-day time frame is telling us. 1-day time frame, if we look at this from a super guppy perspective, we have flipped these EMAs back into being in the most bullish scenario that they can be in. Green EMAs will now be our buying zone once again, or the area that I will look to buy on once again and ride this trend upwards. Ichimoku cloud has finally turned to be in the most bullish position that it can be in, folks. I am making an entry on Bitcoin based on this fact. We are now in the scenario that we were in way back when we started this bull trend down here, where we crossed these 2 lines, the blue and the red lines here, the Tenkan and the Kijun, above the cloud, and then we saw this continuation all the way to our all-time high. So this trend following indicator is now in the most bullish position that it can be in, and this will likely carry price to higher prices. So from a pivots perspective, we have another R2 here. We have the R2 here, which is at about 58.7. That is our next resistance level for price. In terms of support, we can go down to the 8-hour time frame. We can see that right now in about 19 minutes, it's likely we're going to be forming a bearish divergence here with a higher high in price, but a lower high in the RSI. If we zoom in, we can see here's a high, here's a lower high, in price. We have a high and a higher high. That is bearish. This candlestick back here from September 6th is going to be our support zone. You can see we rejected off of it here, and then once we close above that, now that's our support zone. That starts at about 52.2 and goes down to about 50,900. So those are the levels on Bitcoin that I am currently watching. Those are a couple of the different indicators you can use as an investor to make precise and accurate entries on your favorite cryptocurrency investments and ride the momentum for them. Ichimoku Cloud, Super Guppy, things like that. Check out our video where we break down how to use the Super Guppy indicator to do just that. And do not forget to check out our Telegram channel that we have a link in the description below for. This is where you can join people from over 15 different countries who are interested in cryptocurrency investments, just like yourself. And you can join our weekly Zoom calls, and pretty much they're casual meetups that we do every Sunday where we talk about a variety of different developments in the space, drop some alpha, talk about some different projects that we're looking at potentially investing into, and look at how to use some of the things. If you're just getting started, it's a great way to learn some of the basics about how to get involved in things like the DeFi space and other things like that. So check that out and join that. It is free to join. And until next time, onward and upward.